Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a beer, it's time for some Path of Exile discussion. So, the Path of Exile subreddit can be a toxic place sometimes, but it's also somewhere that there are some absolutely fantastic posts. And today I wanted to break down the fantastic post that was made by Redditor Charlem, who has done 300 runs of the Uber Elder encounter. Now, this is the first Uber Elder bulk run that I felt was actually starting to get to the point where you've got a statistically significant number of runs that are being done. And additionally, what Charlem has done is held on to all of the loot until the end of the experiment. And this is really useful because it means that you can more clearly see that there haven't been mistakes made in counting things and the like. So I wanted to go through this and give you as much information as you can about how these drop tables appear to work and what your odds are of getting the item that you're chasing from it. Now, the first thing that needs to be said is that 300 is actually a small sample size. So yeah, if you want exact to the 10th of a percent drop rates, you're not going to find them here. You're going to need a much bigger sample. And when I say bigger, I don't mean 3,000 either. I'm talking 30,000, 75,000 and the like. These sorts of samples are just simply not going to exist in an online community like Path of Exile. Yes, there are probably millions of runs of Uber Elder completed every league, but, and there's a big but, they're done by isolated individuals and people only report things that they feel are remarkable or interesting. And as a result, we just don't get all of the information. That's where I like Charlem's approach of just running 300, reporting the results, whatever happens, and then we can analyze from that. So you're not going to get to the 100th of a percent or the 10th of a percent drop rates from this, but we can get reasonable estimates. And statistics has a whole field called confidence intervals, which gives you a actual scientific way of saying how big the inaccuracy is. So for instance, if you flip a perfectly fair coin 300 times, you're at least 13.6% to get 160 or more heads. Intuitively, you're expecting 150 or very, very close to it, but actually one time in 7, you're going to get 160 plus. Likewise, one time in 7, you're going to get 160 plus tails. Roll a fair 6-sided dice 300 times, and you've got a good chance of getting at least 60 rolls of 6, and you've got a very good chance of getting at least 60 rolls of one of the numbers. So that's where confidence intervals come into account. Now, we're going to use 95% confidence intervals, and a 95% confidence interval tells you that one of the following 4 things is true. Either the true drop rate is within the 95% confidence interval, or the person doing the measurement had top 1 in 40 luck, or they had bottom 1 in 40 luck, or they were wrong about drop numbers. One of those is going to be true for all of these confidence intervals that we come up with. So firstly, let's talk the very common drops. Mark of the Elder, Mark of the Shaper. These are pretty good items, but they've sort of fallen off a bit over time, and they're also very common, which means that the market just gets flooded with them. These are items that are worth equipping. However, they're not worth anything much to sell. So 300 runs of Uber Elder dropped 87 Mark of the Elder and 83 Mark of the Shaper. And this puts the 95% confidence interval for the drop rates at 24.16 to 34.37 for the Elder rings, and 22.91% to 32.99% for the Shaper ring. If we combine the two, we have 170 rings from 300 experiments, which is a total 95% confidence interval of 51.01 to 62.15%. Now, I kind of speculate that the drop rate on these is probably 30% for each, but this is definitely not proven. These items are good, they're certainly not Uber, and they're way too common to have any trade value, especially given that people that use them tend to look to upgrade past them. So, you might use Mark of the Shaper for a little while, but usually you're not intending to say, I'm going to use Mark of the Shaper the entire game. I'm going to use it for a little while, then I'm going to grow out of it and put on a different ring instead. Second up, we've got the uncommon powerhouses. Arguably, these are the strongest items that the Uber Elder encounter drops, but they're not the rarest. These items are sometimes off meta, but they're always very, very good, and they're worth a lot of currency early league. They're also not all that rare. So from their 300 runs, there were 47 helms and 45 quivers dropped. Now, I think that this means that a 15% drop rate is very plausible, but that is not proven, and the confidence interval is quite wide in comparison to that. So 12%, for instance, is possible on both of them. The 95% confidence interval is that the Void Fletcher drop rate is between 11.40 and 19.48, and the Indigon drop rate is between 11.99 and 20.21%. So it could be 12%, 13%, 14%, 15%, 16, 17, 18, 19, or something else fancy. Or, maybe Maybe it was just an unusually large number of one and a tiny number of the other that dropped in the 300 sample. Next up, we have the very, very rare, very niche items. These are all items that have the potential to be chase items. However, they're generally just not that widely used. So these items are well documented to be rare. Most speculate Disintegrator to be the most common of these three, Void Forge in the middle, and Eternity Shroud as the ultra rare item that's no longer really chased after, but will be a chase item again if ever the meta shakes up in a way that makes it good. Now, the 95% confidence interval on these is that Disintegrator is in the 5.43 to 11.63% drop rate. Void Forge is between 1.82 and 6.03, and the Eternity Shroud between 0.52 and 3.38%. You'll notice that these are really wide, and that's because you just can't tell much from a tiny number of successes. So in the 300 runs, only 4 Eternity Shrouds dropped, and that means that it's very easy to go from 4 to 2 just by luck. So you might have only expected to get 2 if the real drop rate was 0.66%, and then you might have just a little bit unusual luck, and you wind up getting 4 instead. Or it could be the other way around, and so the actual spread is pretty wide. So the really quick takeaway from this is never plan on seeing any of these items in solo self-bound. They're very acquirable in Trade League, although if they're on meta, they will be expensive. Now, many people speculate, and I personally believe this, but I am believing this based on thinking it's reasonably likely to be true, not on considering it proven. Many people speculate that Disintegrator is 3 in 60, that Void Forge is 2 in 60, and that the Eternity Shroud is 1 in 60. So they add up to 10% for the rare category. That's my belief as well, but it could very well be wrong. Next, you have the big money maker and the thing you probably care the most about. So Watcher's Eye is the chase unique that everyone is chasing for in the Uber Elder encounter. Unidentified ones often trade for upwards of 5 exalts. This is due to them having a minuscule chance, but a non-zero chance, of getting an amazing combination of aura mods that can be worth thousands of exalts. And I'm not exaggerating when I say thousands of exalts. I'm aware of many of a Watcher's Eye that is traded for 5 mirrors or more, and that can be 2,000 exalts. That can be more in some league economies. 106 of them dropped from 300 runs. Now, this is 300 runs that were carried out with the 10% chance from the Uncharted Realms added. So this is in line with the community's sort of widely speculated 25% base chance. I will state, though, that this does not prove the 25% base chance to be correct. The confidence interval on this is 30.14 to 40.90%. And so that means that actually getting 106 of them from 300 doesn't completely rule out the possibility that it's 30% base raised to 40% by the Uncharted passive, or that it's something weird like 22.5% raised to 32.5 with it, or something like that. A very important note, only item level 86 eyes have 3 aura mods, and item level 85 ones have 2 aura mods, and they're typically worth 60 to 70% less when they're unidentified. Identifying Watcher's Eyes is a huge gamble. It's something that can make people a lot of money if you know exactly what you're doing, but most people don't know what they're doing. And I would suggest, unless you can recognize what a 50 Exalt Watcher's Eye looks like, what a 500 Exalt Watcher's Eye look like, and what a 1500 Exalt Watcher's Eye look like, and you would know how to sell such an item if you did have one, then I would suggest you never identify these, you just turn around and sell them. The other little bonus with Watcher's Eye, when you get one, it doesn't even take up your unique item slot. You get another unique from the encounter too. Finally, there's the bonuses. There's the divination card, the Gulf, which shows Zana mourning Cirrus's apparent death. This is of course prior to Cirrus becoming the omnicidal nihilistic maniac that he is at present endgame. This is Cirrus when he was our player character in the 3.6 era of the game. And this divination card drops from Uber Elder. It is much rarer than I suspected. It's 11 drops from 300 runs, and so that's only 2 sets. And Thread of Hope is a common Cyrus drop. So from Cyrus, I think the most common items in order, I believe, to be the helmet first, the glove second, and the jewel third. So Thread of Hope here is, like, the divination card for it is extraordinarily rare. Now, 95% confidence interval shows that the drop rate is between 2.06 and 6.45%. Almost certainly, again, there's still a possibility of extreme luck. And the other thing that dropped that was a bonus was 53 of Maven's Invitation, the Feared, which is somewhere around the 14 to 22% drop rate. Many people speculate that's a 20% drop rate, but I'm not sure. And that also may well change with the endgame overhaul that's coming with 3.17. Anyways, that's all I've really got on this. Lots of interesting stuff to go through, and hopefully that's put some sort of concept in your mind as to how rare the item you're planning to chase from Uber Elder is, whether it's likely that you'll be able to get it, or whether you should just knuckle down and trade for it instead. May your Varlords have interesting results, and I will see you around.